2 years ago, when I first met ERCI, I had met their staff on the shorelines of Lesvos, and in those days we had almost 20-30 boats come and land a day. And so our work was as a rescue team, and my job was essentially to provide psychological first aid for those who landed and may be hysterical or extremely traumatized by the journey. And those times, the refugees moved from the shoreline into the camp, and they would only stay there for up to 72 hours before they went through Athens, and then went forward to Europe. But since the EU-Turkey deal has happened, these camps, which were not designed as camps to begin with, but were really functioning as transit centers at first, have become almost semi-permanent in some ways. And so there are refugees in a space that was designed for a little bit over 1,000, 7,000 now living literally on top of one another in conditions where hygiene is compromised, where there is a lot of fighting and violence often in the camp, and these are people who have experienced multiple horrendous traumas from their home countries where they were fleeing and along the way. And so the situation is really, as one refugee put it, it's kind of like hell, I've worked in, I think, over 12 or 13 refugee camps in the world, and Moria is probably one of the very hardest I've ever been in. The most common complaint we get in the clinic is I can't sleep. So people are not being fed properly, they're not being able to take care of their hygiene properly. It is freezing cold in these camps. There's barely any warmth in plastic tents, and on top of that they are not able to get mental health support most of the time, when most of them essentially have some level of acute distress. So on top of that, then you have people who have arrived because they were fleeing particular either regimes or groups that were after them, and who are living in extreme fear. So even in the camp they feel hunted, and they feel like they have to hide themselves. So in the clinic we have some people who come early in the morning to take an appointment number, and they say, hurry, tell me what time I should show up, because I'm going to go hide, I don't want anyone to see me. So that kind of fear that essentially consumes so many individuals in this camp of 7,000 people is inhumane, honestly. And there's very little hope for those who know that they may be deported back to the country which they fled, for their lives. There are so many extraordinarily talented people in the camp, and they want the opportunity to contribute back to the community in whatever way they can. So I think that there needs to be a different way of running a camp, such that it feels like more of a community.